true believers? Drew here from Horror Sci-Fi and Beyond, and we're back with the next episode of the MCU Lookback. We're in this episode, we're going to be discussing the first Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers: Age of Ultron, and then the original Antman. And with me today, we got the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Eric White.
Hello.
And
That's
we
me.
also got Mr. Action Jackson Herbert.
Howdy, y'all.
Yeah, I want to start introducing you in these videos so that it feel awkward when
Sure.
we're talking.
Right.
Before we get to that, let's get down to some housekeeping. First off, last week, again, by the time this is posted, I actually had the opportunity to interview the Fear of God podcast, Reed and Nathan Rao through a good friend of mine. So
Nice.
make sure you check that that interview out, and I'll leave that in the description below. The other thing before we get down to the MCU look back is Mr. Jackson finally watched Evil Dead Rise, and we're gonna talk about it for a little bit.
Okay.
So I'll let you go first, Jackson, since me and Eric already did the the theater.
Fresh on your mind. Yeah.
Yeah. You actually saw this today. The day that we're recording.
Yes, I saw this just a few hours ago. I really liked it. I'd probably give it like a 4 out of 5. I think it's a really worthy addition to the franchise. It's definitely, like we were saying before we hit record, it's definitely more in line with the 2013 Evil Dead than with the original trilogy. But it has some really dark laughs in it. And this is the first time this franchise, including the 2013 one, by the way, this is the first time I felt like genuinely unsettled because this movie is not about a bunch of 20-something friends in a cabin in the woods, and it's not about a bunch of like skeleton warriors invading a kingdom in medieval times. This is about like a real struggling family in an apartment building in Los Angeles, and what happens when the Necronomicon comes barreling into their lives. And it has some really harrowing, like, child in peril stuff. Like, kids die in this movie.
Spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers. Sorry. I actually got kind of, like, emotional during this movie because I really felt for the characters. Like I said, the original trilogy is more comedy than horror, I'd say. And then the 2013 one is just so serious. This one's more serious. Yeah. But it also, like, I felt for these characters more than I've ever felt for the set of characters in an Evil Dead movie before.
Right.
I felt so bad for this poor woman and her kids.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, literally did nothing wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, and they also brought back the taunting of the Deadites because
yeah, we haven't seen that in a little bit. Yeah,
I think one of my favorite parts in this movie is when the mom is hiding kind of in the shadows, and you see the hand comes out, and she goes, "Eeny, meeny, miny, oh." That was like such an Evil Dead moment right there.
Oh, sure. No, I like that they were willing to try new things. It easily could have been just like same old. But like the third act is pretty wild with like some of the stuff that they like come up with. I won't spoil anything, but like it's like did not see that coming. Just wild ass third act, like crazy. More like The Thing than Evil Dead in some ways. Which I'm cool with.
Yeah. I really enjoyed this movie. I mean, of course, you couldn't go like super far with it because you got kids involved. But I had a good time with it. That mom was
they went pretty far.
I mean,
yeah.
There's only like one. Let's spoil. That's too spoilery. But yeah, there's like it's almost everyone dies. I'll say that. Yeah. Almost everyone in the movie dies, which is crazy. Considering that there's a lot of people under the age of 18.
Yeah, and I gotta say, before the mom turns into the demon, she kind of going on a little bit. She's kind of attractive.
Oh yeah, she's on the show called Vikings. Great.
Oh, really?
Oh, is she on that show? Okay, I've never watched it, but I know.
I've only seen like first season, but I hear it gets like really good, so I haven't seen past that. But
okay.
Yeah.
They say stick with it, but there's so many seasons now; it's hard to.
There's so many shows. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Too many.
Let's get down to the MCU look back. And
here we go.
The first movie is Guardians of the Galaxy. Synopsis.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, Doug, you go ahead.
Oh no, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'll say it in a second.
Yeah. In the plot synopsis, according to IMDb, is a group of intergalactic criminals must pull together to stop a fanatical warrior with plans to purge the universe.
Short and sweet and to the point.
Yeah. All right, what were we going to say, Eric?
Oh, I was just going to say, I know that last video I said that Winter Soldier might be my favorite Marvel movie. I think I've changed it again. I think I may change it every round we go through. I forgot how really good Guardians is. It's been so long since I've seen it. I don't actually like sit down and watch these movies over and over and over. So it had been probably been since theaters, maybe since I watched Guardians. Maybe I watched it again when the second one came out. But it's been like 5-6 years at least. It's really good. Holds up really well.
Yeah, I gotta say, there's nothing like having a male ejaculation joke in a Marvel movie, Disney.
Oh gosh,
why not?
If you saw a black light in this ship, it would look like a Jackson Pollock painting. Yeah, problems.
Yeah.
The thing is, those characters don't even know who Jackson Pollock is.
Yeah.
Like he's just saying things, and they're like,
knows.
Right.
Yeah. Well, technically, isn't Rocket a android or some kind to maybe like in the programming, like he knows who Jackson Pollock is.
Oh, maybe I don't know. I know that. I mean, he was a regular raccoon before he was experimented on. So maybe on Earth he lived in the yard of Jackson Pollock.
We're gonna get into this when Guardians 3 comes out. We're gonna know.
Yeah. We'll find out everything, all of the dark secrets. Yeah.
That'll be such a funny joke in that movie when like he's just in the yard and he's seen like his owner or like a human like put up that Jackson Pollock painting.
He's just like looking very confused at it.
5 years later, and this
it's Ed Harris playing Jackson Pollock.
Who?
Deep cut.
Yeah, no, Ed Harris played Jackson Pollock in a movie called Pollock.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
Yeah. It's an okay movie, but yeah, Ed Harris is good in it. Yeah.
This movie opens up like hard and heavy. Because
it's so sad.
Yeah, because Peter's mom dies in this movie and it's so emotional. And basically she says like your grandpa will take care of you until your father comes, which is again more foreshadowing that the MCU is great at foreshadowing stuff.
They are now. They used to be really bad at it.
Greg Henry in there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the grandpa?
Yeah, it's Greg Henry from Slither.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, James Gunn reuses a lot of people.
He's always doing that.
From other movies. Yeah, dropping them in the background. Lloyd Kaufman is in the background of the prison at one point.
Oh, really?
Like the owner of Troma.
Really,
and then
really funny if the grandpa told Quill, now stop your whining, boy, and we'll give me a Dr. Pibb.
A Dr. Pibb?
I only drink Dr. Pibb.
Mr. Pibb went to school and
got
his degree.
It's been a long time. Yeah. Long time getting that degree.
Soda. And became Dr. Pepper.
Is that just where you take a Dr. Pepper and a Mr. Pibb and pour them in the same glass?
And no one noticed ever.
No one noticed, yeah. They're like, this is the same drink.
And then I like the part when Peter is in the waiting room and he's listening to his music and the grandpa comes over to him and he says, take those full things off. And I think that the whole him saying take those full things off, it seemed like it could have been a throwaway line, but I kind of saw it as that's like the music is an escape for Peter in a way.
Oh, sure. Yeah. It's his attachment to his mom, for sure, yeah. The The movie, it starts off really hot and heavy, like hard, like hardcore, almost too hardcore. But I think you need that scene in order to like make his arc, and his like emotional understanding of like Peter later like makes sense. But like I remember the first time I saw it in theaters, like holy shit! Like I'm used to like an action sequence at the beginning of like a Marvel movie.
Well, I mean, it grounds the whole thing in some level of reality because we're about to get into some Marvel stuff we've never seen.
Right, they're all like off into like a different galaxy for the entirety of the movie. Nothing is familiar for any of this. While the rest of it's basically set on Earth. Yeah.
And I love Star-Lord's dance number to "Come and Get Your Love" by Redbone. Boom, 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 bam,
and he's being really like mean. He's like kicking around these animals that are running around. Like they didn't do anything. They're just running around living their lives, and he just goes around like he uses one as a microphone, and he kicks one into a puddle, and
no, super fun. Like the most fun intro to a character I've seen in like Marvel in a minute. Especially before now. Like I guess Tony's fun in some ways, but he's also kind of a dick. You know, at least this guy's like carefree, I guess. I don't know.
He's carefree, and yet, well, we've seen what he's already gone through. We haven't seen everything. I mean, you know, you get more of that in the second one, where you find more out about like his life growing up with the Ravagers and all of that. But we already know, like, we know right away, oh, this kid, he just watched his mother die and then got taken off to space to live with criminals.
Right.
28 years later. Yeah, like an absurd amount of time.
So we can't ignore the Big Trouble in Little China reference in the middle of the scene when the dude says, "What's his name?" and Peter goes, "Star-Lord." "Who?" "Star-Lord, man."
Come on.
Yeah.
Desmond Hundu.
Yeah, literally, that's what this version of the character is based off of. He's based off of Jack Burton, like this guy.
Oh, I totally believe that. Yeah.
So, like, he's a complete buffoon, and that's why James Gunn casted Kurt Russell as
that makes sense.
As, Ego.
And then it comes full circle in the Lego Movie 2, where the sort of like alternate future version of Chris Pratt's character is a direct like Jack Burton.
He's just driving a semi.
Like, wow. He's doing the voice and everything, like, because in Big Trouble, Kurt Russell is kind of doing a John Wayne voice.
Sure.
And in Lego Movie 2, Chris Pratt is doing a Kurt Russell doing a John
Wayne voice.
Yeah.
Chef's kiss. Perfect.
Jack Burton from the old Pork Chop Express.
And then in the Mario movie, Chris Pratt is doing nothing interesting whatsoever.
This is a James Gunn movie, so of course you gotta have Mr. Michael Rooker as Yondu, the Mohawk wearing.
Michael Rooker so good in this too, and it really like it's so knowing where it goes with like part 2. It's just like we just want more. I want more. I want more Michael Rooker. I would watch an entire Yondu movie just by itself.
Yeah. Well, that and then you got Sean Gunn as well. You know, James's brother, and he has a great character that goes over to this, and he's going to be in 3 as well.
Right.
Yeah,
because he's got the Finn now. But yeah, like it's James Gunn feels like a guy that kind of establishes a movie making family. Right. And I love that about him.
Or just works with people he likes to work with. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Which also didn't know this. James Gunn also played Rocket on set. Like he was like the stand-in digital before they put the digital. Yeah, that's what did I say?
Yeah, you said James Gunn.
My mistake. Sean Gunn. James Gunn also directed it, but he was also Rocket on set. Really got into it.
I thought it was interesting how Rooker got this part because I think when they were in pre-production, he was still doing The Walking Dead.
Oh yeah, he was on.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, and of course, James Gunn had to have Michael Rooker, in all his movies. Basically offered the role to him. And he basically said, "Oh, like I can't do it because you're filming the same time we're doing Walking Dead." And then like a week later, basically the people at AMC basically told Worker like, "Hey, we're calling off your character, and just don't tell anybody." So he immediately
For the
called
best.
Johnny. He's like, "Okay, James, you didn't hear this from me, but I can get killed off in Walking Dead." And James Gunn says, "So you can do the part? Hell yeah, I can do the part." James Gunn goes, "Now I just need to convince Disney."
Right, and then they watched Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. They were like, you know what? I really see this guy as the blue one. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Had
Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, that movie really disturbed me, but Worker really turned me over during Days of Thunder.
Oh, right.
I mean, you know, there's always Mallrats.
Oh. Yeah.
Which is the first thing I ever saw Michael Rooker in.
Sure.
And he damn near steals the movie there.
Yeah. But I love how they hint at Yondu's and Quill's relationship for like the next movie. Because Yondu shows Quill tough love because he knows like he'll be a great Ravager or a space pirate.
It's the son he never had. It's Michael Rooker's son he never had, basically.
Yeah. Now I also think that Yondu is a little bit insecure about himself a bit.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why he has like an arrow that's placed right near his like waistline that, you know, like he whistle and send it and erects it, if you will.
It's really hard to talk about this movie without talking about Guardians 2, but I will try.
Right. Yeah.
They do a really good job of setting Guardians 2 up in this movie. Like it's almost tossed off because Yondu kind of flippantly refers to Peter's dad, you know, when he's talking to Sean Gunn's character.
Right.
And you get that little bit of something between him and Peter. But of course, in this movie, he spends most of the movie chasing Peter.
Sure. Yeah. And letting him go. Eventually, it's just like not really doing anything to him. Yeah.
And you can get into all the problematic issues with Yondu because it's the same with Thanos, and we'll get into that in several episodes. But it's like this guy is essentially kind of an abusive father figure. And yet he is portrayed as also somehow being loving.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to square that circle, but I think they do the best that they can with it. You know, James Gunn as the writer and director and Michael Rooker as the performer. You feel like there's something else going on inside of this guy. Yeah.
It's kept vague enough. And like his threats always are idle enough almost that it almost comes like they play up like the comedy of it where it doesn't feel quite as harsh. But yeah, like on paper, he's just totally fucking abusive. You know what I mean?
Kind of come around to Yondu by the second movie. It's kind of like Steve from Stranger Things, where he's at the stereotypical jock asshole.
Sure.
And then you kind of like him by the end of the first season. Kind of the same thing here.
I don't watch that show. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's your problem.
I will say that this movie's great. There's a lot of fun music and everything, but the one thing that doesn't work for me is the villain. The villain of the whole movie just is kind of he's just one note for the majority of the movie. It's just like, I'm gonna kill everybody.
And again, they cast a really good actor to play that character.
Unrecognizable.
You know, he was in the running to play Star-Lord.
Oh, really?
At one point.
Lee Pace, I didn't know that. That's wild.
Oh, yeah. And I've always felt like Hollywood has misused Lee Pace. Because I don't know if y'all ever watched Pushing Daisies.
Yeah. Great show.
He's so charming on that show. And yet, Hollywood, from this movie to Lincoln to there's other stuff.
He was in The Fall. He was in that Scene movie.
Yeah, see, that's a movie that uses him well because he's like the dashing hero in that movie. But like, I feel like Hollywood always gets him to play like these kind of dicks.
Yeah.
And his persona in real life he's just this very unassuming, charming, handsome man.
Sure.
I just feel really bad for Lee Pace.
Yeah.
I
will
would have
say,
actually, I would have liked him as Star-Lord. I think that would have been terrific.
that'd have been fun. I will
Yeah.
say, along the pace lines, you should watch Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. He's really good in it.
Yes. Okay. Well, that's another one where he's playing kind of a dick.
Yeah.
But he's
But
funny.
he's like a sweet dick. You know what I mean? He's just kind of like
charming. He's charming. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
But I thought it was kind of interesting how James Gunn basically told Dave Bautista about this guy Lee Pace, and you can throw anything at him and he'll be good. And he's like such a good actor. And basically Dave Bautista said to James Gunn, because this was like one of Bautista's first roles or first roles.
Yeah.
He basically said like, I want to get there someday, and he has with Knock at the Cabin. I thought he was
oh man, he's really great in the beginning of Blade Runner 2049 too. He only has like one scene.
But... And then there's another movie called Hotel Artemis.
Oh
yeah. Where he co-stars with Jodie Foster, and it's not a big role, but it's a great part, and he just sells it completely. Right. Where he plays this hulking man who's also a healthcare professional.
That's awesome.
Wonderful.
Now you gotta admit that Groot and Rocket are like today's Han and Chewie, because Han and Rocket are in it for the money. Groot and Chewie are just along for the ride.
This movie definitely borrows from a lot of like really good franchises, but it borrows in a nice way where it's just borrowing like character dynamics versus like stealing whole scenes and shit like that.
Yeah, I think this movie is definitely Big Trouble meets Star Wars meets Indiana Jones, for sure.
Yeah. And there's a fair bit of Firefly in there too. So let's go into a little bit of the shortcomings of this movie. And I don't want to blame anybody. There's probably someone to blame. Gamora and Nebula get the short shrift in this movie. I think it's corrected a little bit more in the second movie, and hopefully even more. Well, even by like Infinity War and Endgame, it's been corrected a lot more. But they don't pop as well as they should. Despite the fact that they're played by great actors, Zoe Saldana and what's her name? Why am I forgetting?
Karen Gillian.
Karen Gillian, yes, from Doctor Who, yes. This is in that Marvel era where they're just not really giving much attention to their female characters.
Right.
And it's worth noting that this movie doesn't really either. Even though Gamora is ostensibly one of the crew. She comes off as being the least interesting member of the crew. Even less interesting than the tree who only ever says 3 words.
It says 3 words, right. Yeah. Like they essentially only just paint her as sort of a love interest for the movie. They don't really give her much else to do.
Well,
and that's really kind of...
At first an antagonist.
Right.
And then,
See, I disagree.
She's more of a device in this movie.
I disagree with you there totally. I think it's really interesting, the whole sibling rivalry thing.
Sure.
Yeah, but I don't feel like that gets explored until the second one.
Right. But it's hinted at here still.
It's hinted at, but it's not.
It's hinted at, but it's not really part of the story.
Like I said, I really don't agree with you, Jackson. But I mean, that's your opinion, your ballot towards it. I can kind of see where you're coming from, where like their role or how they play it. It's kind of one note, kind of like this badass and like stone face. I can kind of see where you're coming from there.
Yeah.
But,
especially Nebula. I think Nebula really gets the short end of the stick. And she's really one of the more interesting characters, like backstory wise. She just shows up in scenes and just
I just bought a blue Jeep Compass and named it Nebula.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
I love Nebula. I think she is one of the most interesting characters in the entire MCU. I love Nebula.
Yeah, I know you have a thing for redheads, even though she's not redhead.
No, she's a blue cyborg.
Yeah, but I'm saying that Karen Gillan is redhead. I know you said you have a for redheads and Karen Gillan.
Okay, that has nothing to do with why I love this character. I couldn't even remember the name of the actor who played them. I just really love the character.
Yeah.
Sure.
I love me some Karen Gillan. I loved her in Oculus. I loved her in Jumanji.
She's good in Oculus.
Yeah, she's terrific. She's absolutely terrific. I just wish that this movie gave her more to do. But I don't know. This movie is doing so many things. Let me say something about Guardians 1. I just watched it yesterday. I watched a recap of it today just to refresh myself. I still couldn't really tell you what the plot of this movie is.
Right.
Because it's like they do a thing and go to a place and do a thing and go to another place, and then they wind up in prison, and then they get out, and then they go to a place and do a thing. And who cares? This movie works because the characters work. And that's true of a lot of Marvel movies. Right. I think we keep coming back to that theme while we talk about these. Because who can tell me what happens in Thor: The Dark World? Raise your hand if you can tell me. Exactly.
This one, I mean, I would say that this one at least, no, I mean, it has the same problems. This is basically, they've got a MacGuffin that they need to get for no reason other than just they need to get it. And then Ronan wants it because he wants it. Like they never explain him at all or like why he needs it. And it's just, but a lot of those things that just kind of skips along.
If you ask the same question, what is the plot of Iron Man? You could probably give me a pretty good synopsis of it.
Sure.
But Guardians, I don't even remember why they wind up in prison because they get into a fight on Xandar, I guess.
Yep. That's it. Yeah.
But who cares? It's fun to watch.
Yeah.
Sure.
But we can't talk about this movie without talking about the introduction to Josh Brolin as Thanos. And you know this guy means business because he tells Ronan, if you come back empty-handed again, I will bathe the starways in your blood. That's pretty badass.
What a silly line that Josh Brolin somehow makes work.
Yeah, that is so badass.
Josh Brolin makes everything work. He's terrific. But Thanos doesn't look quite right yet. They're still figuring out like the coloring and the facial structure and all of that about Thanos.
Yeah.
And they couldn't really, I don't think they really could figure out how to move him yet either. He just sits he just sits in a chair. Yeah.
He
just sits in his chair. He doesn't even move his hands. He's just
it was kind of interesting how in a short time span, in 2018, he played Thanos in Infinity War and Cable in Deadpool 2. So 2 Marvel movies.
That was a really weird year.
I love when Rocket tells Gamora and Quill how they're going to escape that prison, and that they need a Pacific battery hidden in a wall behind them. As Groot is stealing the battery,
he's getting the battery right.
Their plan right there and then. That is classic, like action comedy.
Right.
Like right there.
It's good. It's really good.
All the stuff really, really good.
That's really what kind of makes the movie sing is like there are these beats in like every scene where a character is allowed to sort of play, like they do it a lot with Drax, but also with that scene, it's just that like they build in these like comic character beat moments that in that moment you kind of know who Groot is too in some ways, so it's like a little bit of like character stuff too, and it's just that's what really carries this movie along, because you're right, Jackson, it is kind of like one scene just is out of the frying pan into the fire like every other scene, basically.
Yeah.
And I love how Drax like just gets off on beating the crap out of people. Because like he's like knocking motherfuckers like left and right. And like he's knocking his ass off. It's funny.
Yeah.
Dave Bautista's comedic timing in this movie is so good.
Yeah.
Makes me laugh every time.
Nothing goes
and it only gets better as it goes along. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Nothing goes over my head. I'm too fast.
And then I love how Star-Lord thinks that Footloose is the greatest like movie of all time, and that is a commentary on film fandom. How like every film had that one movie that goes beyond a movie, and it's like a way of life. And to me,
does this come up in this movie?
Yeah,
I remember it from Infinity War.
The sticks up their butts. The sticks up their butts. Because he's like, who put the sticks up their butts? Yeah.
It totally went over my head in this movie. Yeah, I remember it from Infinity War when he's talking to Spider-Man about it. but I had forgotten that it came up in this movie. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't prepare you guys for this, but let's just go around the room and name me a movie where, for you, it goes beyond a movie and this is a way of life. So I'll go first. Mine is Scream.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, it's a whole franchise. That goes
man.
beyond a movie for me. Like, I take so much from that.
I really love Raising Arizona.
Never.
Really love Raising Arizona. I don't know what to say. It's one of my favorite
Do you
movies.
live your life by that movie?
I don't go around stealing babies, but so no, but yes.
I am gonna go with Dazed and Confused.
Oh.
Now, last episode, I said that so far out of all the movies that we reviewed, that Iron Man 3 was my favorite, like, climactic action scene.
Oh.
I gotta say, now watching Guardians, that Guardians is my favorite climactic action scene. And
it's pretty terrific. Yeah.
Yeah, excluding like any of the Avengers, because that doesn't really.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I was thinking about the Avengers when I watched it, and the reason that one doesn't click with me as well as like the end of this one is that I feel like they do a better job of setting up the stakes for all these characters, even ones we haven't seen before. So like they almost do the exact same thing that the Avengers does, where they like set up that waitress, they set up that person on the ground, and then they pay it off. That's John C. Wiley's wife. There's just so many of those like little beats. Like they're not afraid to kill off characters you've met before. I don't know. It worked really well for me. I loved the end of this movie up until
like
the Ronin
Xandarians, when the Xandarians show up and they sort of form that net, to stop the ship, and like it's really cool. Like it rivals the end of Endgame where everybody shows up. I do love like people just showing up at the end and coming together to protect.
Very
and it's not
Return of the King, the Two Towers, when that wolf shows up.
Or the final Harry Potter movie. It's the same thing.
It's also nice too because it could easily just become like CGI nonsense where people are just shooting and it's just like that for 40 minutes. But like what you were talking about with like creating a net, like them banding together, like literally banding together to save the city. I don't know. It's nice. It's inventive and fun.
I love the part when Groot extends his hand out and stabs that line of bad guy and he smacks them everywhere. And he like looks at the
That's fun.
the Guardians. That was funny. Then I really like the dance off at the end. I thought that was really
the dance off's super fun. It's really nice. And it's the best. It's the funniest. It's the best like reaction from Ronin too. Like his reaction really like it almost makes the Bland character up until now like being super serious, and then it's just this ridiculous dance off, and it's so good.
I like the part
I will say go ahead.
No, I like the part when he's telling him, yo, you gotta listen to the lyrics. Ooh, someday things are gonna get brighter. Break it down now.
Throw it back. Subtle. It's good. There's a nice, just wonderful little interplay.
And then, Quill touches the Infinity Stone, and he doesn't die, and he learned that he's actually half human, half alien.
Yeah. Which I will say that is a bit that end to Ronin is a little disappointing, in that they don't really do anything to defeat him. You know what I mean? They just hold a stone and then he just like evaporates, and it's kind of like okay, I guess.
Oh, we cannot forget about.
I kind of like that though. Like it reminds me, and we'll get to this in a few episodes too, but it reminds me of the end of Doctor Strange. It's not about like brute force or whatever. It's a different thing that defeats the villain.
Okay.
I mean, I like that. Like, you know, there's so many of these movies that end with like the hero and the villain like going to blows, and they have the same powers and whatever. And this movie does something different, and it works. It works on an emotional level because you see the Guardians as this family at this point.
Well, you also can't forget about the part when they're all holding hands and Gamora reaches out her hand to Quill, and he get that visit of his mom. To me, that kind of reminded me of the end of Toy Story 3 when they're about the furnace, and they call
the end of
back
Toy
to the
Story 3
part.
is rough.
Yeah, well, no, because like they go back, they call back to the part when Buzz extends out his hand to Woody before they're about to part ways. Yeah, and then now they have to come together.
The end of Toy Story 3 is a fucking gut punch.
Oh, speaking of music, Jackson, before we get to favorite part, least favorite part, you gotta do Hooked on a Feeling as Tom Waits. And I'll be nice to you, I'll lead you in, I'll do the Ooga Chaga parts.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Ooga Chaga, Ooga Chaga, Ooga, Ooga, Ooga Chaga, Ooga Chaga.
Hooked on a feeling. High on believing you're in love with me. Yeah.
You said you did practice that. I don't believe you. Wonderful.
Yeah, that song was everywhere, like leading up to the.
Oh yeah, I mean it was in the trailer for a reason.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I do love the scene in this movie. We're jumping all around the place. We're not gonna have time for the other two movies. We're talking so much about this one, but the scene where he discovers the guy like wearing his headphones, listening to that song. I just love the look on the guy's face, like staring.
Really
blankly.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, but he has no emotion or anything. He just has a really funny looking face, and he's just kind of staring at Peter Quill.
It's those big eyes. He looks like a like what's those fuzzy little creatures with the big eyes? I forget what they're called. Kirby? He looks like that to me. Yeah,
but,
it's good. It's really good.
I know what you're talking about, but I can't think of. I
can't think of it either. Yeah.
I wish Hooked on a Feeling could have been used in a bigger moment instead of them going to the prison.
I don't know. I think it works. Yeah,
it works.
There's
but
a lot of.
It was such a big deal in the trailer, and everybody was doing covers of it on YouTube.
I mean, and honestly, it wasn't probably a huge deal in the movie until they started putting it in the trailer everywhere. Like it was just one of the songs, one of the great songs they had in there.
Synced it up with Rocket firing the gun on Groot's shoulders. You know, bum 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 bum. Yeah.
I love that trailer. Oh, I love the part when they're going through all the Guardians with the prison lineup, and then Will does the middle finger when he's like reeling it up.
Sorry.
Like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know how that scene worked.
Good.
Yeah, and then you get Peter Serafinowicz just being like, "What a bunch of a-holes."
Yeah. Yeah, because British people say that all the time.
Oh yeah.
A-holes. I believe both of a-holes.
But it's also too like they set him up really well. So when they do spoilers, when they do kill him at the end of the movie, you're kind of like, oh,
yeah.
I kind of started liking him. Yeah.
But you guys ready to do favorite part, least favorite part?
Sure.
Okay.
I'll just go, Jackson.
Okay, so favorite part. It's 3 words. We are Groot.
Yeah.
He spent the whole movie with this character who only says, "I am Groot." And then he reaches out his arms and envelops his friends and protects them. And that's the moment they become a family. And that's what these movies are about more than anything. And you know, when you get into the second one, it goes even deeper. But We Are Groot is just the most perfect payoff to a setup you didn't even know they were setting up.
Oh yeah. The best payoffs, the best like surprises is something that was like inevitable, but it still surprises you at the end of it. It's good.
Yeah,
it's really good.
It's
so beautiful
Groot at the end.
Yeah.
Dancing Groot is amazing.
Yeah, that's fun. But We Are Groot is like the true heart and soul of this movie.
Yeah. Your least favorite part?
It
didn't have to be a part, it just has to be like an aspect of the movie.
I just, the plot, like I said, the plot is nonsense. Who cares? I don't know what's going on most of the time. I don't care, but that's part of the problem is that I don't care.
Sure.
I think the second movie remedies this. Hopefully the third movie won't ruin it. Yeah.
Your turn, Eric.
Least favorite part is probably Ronan. He's just kind of like a bland one note villain. He's not as bad. He's not as bad as what's the Malekith?
Yeah. Oh,
Malekith. He's not as bad as Malekith, but he's also just not as interesting as like some of the other. Which we've got a lot of good villains this phase too. So he's just kind of one note. But I will say the saving grace is that last beat with the dance off. Like that's like pretty great. As far as like stuff I love, my favorite part probably, man, I don't know. I really love Drax's introduction, especially early on, like the stuff with him in prison, all the stuff with him being too literal, like all that stuff still makes me laugh. And I know the joke's coming. I know it's still coming. It still cracks me up.
Right. I gotta say my favorite part, a lot like Star Wars, or I guess any sort of weird, crazy sci-fi movie, is that they don't bother to explain every species and their backstory and all that stuff.
Yeah.
James Gunn just lets you just live in this world, which I love.
Yeah, I agree.
Least favorite part, this is a minor nitpick. I kind of wanted just one more tiny moment with Thanos to see what he's truly capable of. Instead of saying, "Surrounding, I'm gonna bathe the starways with your blood," but
that's fair.
Yeah.
So rating.
Man, it's probably 4.5 for me. This is maybe the highest I've rated one of these. I don't remember what I rated the rest of them, but 4.5.
It's a solid 4 from me. Once we get to Guardians 2, I'm gonna be much more effusive about that film.
Okay.
This was a solid 4 though.
It's a good introduction. It's like the argument between Godfather Part 2, you know?
I'm gonna give this movie a 5 out of 5, which is probably like my third one.
Okay.
I fucking love this movie. This movie's awesome.
Good stuff. Yeah.
All right. Next film, Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
We have 2 more movies to talk about. I'm already exhausted talking about that one.
When Tony Stark and Bruce Banner try to jumpstart a dormant peacekeeping program called Ultron, things go horribly wrong, and it's up to the Earth's mightiest hero to stop the villainous Ultron to enacting his terrible plan. Now, I love the wonder shot of the Avengers just like taking that guy out in the snow. That just said the Avengers are back, baby. I love that. That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
Sure. I'm glad they got it out of the way. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm glad they got it out of the way early in the movie because it definitely calls attention to itself when they do it. And I think they did. It would have been too much at the end, I think. So I'm glad they like dropped it right there at the top, just so we know what we're getting into.
All right.
I was just going to say it is a terrific piece of animation.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think there is one real thing in that shot.
No.
Yeah.
No.
That is something that only happens in Pixar movies, like directed by Brad Bird, where the camera is just swooping here and there and everywhere. And of course, they did it in the first one at the end. Here they open with it,
Right. Wait, tell me that Chris Hemsworth's muscles aren't real?
That's real. That's the only thing that's real in the whole shot.
Just his muscles.
I love when Cap tells Stark to watch his language, and that keeps getting brought up. And then when Nick Fury shows up at the end, and Cap goes, "Fury, you son of a bitch," and then Nick Fury goes, "Whoa, you kissed your mom with that mouth?"
Yeah. It's a nice running gag. It's a nice running gag that keeps on
here
rewarding.
We go with the Joss Whedon of it all again.
Yeah.
Of course, this being his last outing with Marvel before he jumped over to DC and ruined Justice League.
100%.
Yeah. And that guy's career is over, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not because of what he did with Justice League, but because of how he treats people.
If only he had to pay for that cinematic travesty.
Yeah, that was kind of shocking, honestly. I thought he seemed like he's a cool guy.
He always seemed that way, you know. He's very articulate. He writes good stuff. He's a good director. It just seems like he is just not nice to people.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Was it that one incident with Justice League, or were there countless?
No.
Multiples.
It has come out since then. Like, other people have come out since his Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Wow.
It goes back decades. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
people who worked on that show were like, no, this guy was not good to us.
Yeah, I can kind of understand if it was like just the one project, but like, yeah, if it's
no.
project,
sure. I mean, tensions run high on sets, you know, like people get upset and they lose their cool sometimes.
It's sad to learn stuff like that about people that you used to look up to, because, you know, I'm a big fan of Buffy and Angel and Firefly.
Yeah, I think you can still like
even Dollhouse. I liked Dollhouse.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about Dollhouse. Yeah,
like Dollhouse is good. Dollhouse is legit. Eliza Dushku gives a different performance every episode, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I feel like you can totally like those shows.
It's easier when it's not an actor and you don't have to see them. You know what I mean? Like, it becomes harder when it's like a person you see. So like behind the scenes stuff, it's, I don't know.
I mean, like,
it's still not great.
I love the signing, and I know what Shelley Duvall went through during that movie.
Yeah,
I still love that movie. So I love how in this movie, how you're starting to get signs of the public hating the Avengers because of all the collateral damage. That was real interesting.
Yeah, I do like that they touch on this at least, because this is kind of the first time they've really said anything about it up until now. They're just like, destroying buildings and completely decimating places, and everyone's just like, "We love the Avengers, yay!"
And that leads to Civil War.
Right.
And then I like how Stark starts to get divisions, broken Avengers team from Wanda Maximoff, aka the Scarlet Witch, and then he grabs Loki's staff, and it cuts to the title card with menacing music playing in the background.
No, it's nice. This is definitely like Marvel's Empire. Like, it's like Empire Strikes Back. It's basically their darker chapter where everything kind of goes bad for the Avengers. It gets darker
until you get to Infinity War.
Right.
I don't feel good.
Which is like the Empire of Empires.
Right.
But yeah, this one, okay. Hot take. I think I like this one more than the first Avengers.
I do too.
I think.
Okay,
there we go.
I like aspects of this movie more than the first Avengers. I just think the last action scene is way too fucking long.
That's true.
It's 10 minutes straight of the Avengers smashing robots.
Yeah.
Right after I mean, it's the scene. No, hold on. And right after seeing of Cap and Natasha smashing robots, and I even wrote down my notes. My favorite action movie of all time is Terminator 2. And that has 3 separate action scenes, but they're all 3 memorable. Like, there's a clear goal in mind in those 3 set pieces in those T2. This is just 10 minutes straight of the Avengers smashing robots. It gets
more like 20 minutes.
Cut it down to like 5 minutes at least.
Sure. No, I mean, like, compared to even the last movie.
Hold on 1 second, Eric. I gotta keep interrupting you. And I'm talking. This is before they're in that circle building. Like, see, that stuff is great. I'm talking about everything before that.
Sure. Yeah. No, I agree. I completely agree. And compared to the last movie, like I feel like they're classic stakes for everybody. They all have something to do. And this one, you're right. It's just like smash the robots.
But
this movie has problems. I do think Ultron is a much more interesting character, the way he's played by James Spader. To me, like,
James Spader.
Yeah, I love how he's given Stark's personality. I gotta say, one of my favorite Ultron lines is when I think it's Stark asks Ultron, "Did he kill Jarvis?" And he's like, "Well, would have been my first call."
No, he's got a lot of great stuff, and they're like off the cuff. They don't feel like his performance is kind of weird, but I kind of love it because it's not like we're coming off of again Guardians where Ronan is just like chest beating like for like 2 hours. Then James Spader is at least trying something different, like weird off the cuff lines, and just like he's almost learning how to be a villain in some weird ways. It's weird.
Well, here's the thing about James Spader, and I'm going to reference The Office to talk about this.
Okay.
James Spader is not an off-the-cuff actor.
Oh, really?
No, he is not. He is a guy that learns his lines, learns his blocking, and meticulously recreates it every take.
Oh.
They talked about that because he was on The Office for a season.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
he
season 8 of The
Steve
Office.
Carell. Yeah.
He doesn't. Yeah, he didn't replace Steve Carell. He plays like a higher up in the corporation, but he's always around. And they talk about that show because that show was heavily scripted, but they had their moments where they could kind of go off script and ad lib and stuff. And they all said he never did any of that. Like he came in and he would work out his marks where he was going to be on camera, how he was going to say his lines, and he would do that every single time. He is a classical actor. And so when it seems like he's being off the cuff, that's how good he is. Because
he's really good.
He's not being off the cuff at all.
Yeah.
He's very meticulous in his process.
And going back to what I was saying before, how I like how they get more like critically acclaimed actors, like old school actors, like Anthony Hopkins, James Spader's one, like we were talking about, Redford and all those people, because they bring a lot of gravitas to that, because like you said, he's very so you need somebody with a lot of gravitas. Same thing with Michael Fassbender. I mean, he's not a classic, like a classic actor, like Hopkins or Spader, but he brings a lot of gravitas to the Magneto role in the X-Men movie.
Sure.
So there's Patrick Stewart. So
he's the best part.
Ian McKellen.
He's the best part of those like first class movies.
Yeah. I love the part when Stark asks Dr. Chow if he's coming to the party, and he says, "Unlike you, I don't have time for parties." And then she pauses for a second, and she says, "Will Thor be there?"
Yeah. It's cute.
That's cute. That's a line that my aunt would say.
Yeah.
Right. It's true. It's on everybody's mind.
I'm not even kidding. Like, if Chris Hemsworth comes to a Comic-Con near me, like, that's gonna be a gift I'm gonna bring my aunt. Like, I'm gonna pay for her to get an autograph, or even get one of those fancy pictures you can take at those comic book events. I don't care how much. I will pay the price. And then I like when Stark and Banner build the AI system, which becomes Ultron, and Stark explains that to make that possible, or how to make that possible, and Banner responds, "Well, that's a man-sized F," and Stark goes, "A whole job is F."
Yeah,
I think that's the whole appeal of sci-fi. A lot of is what if? It's the possibility.
Sure. It's like questioning, it's like the idea that these things aren't possible, but what if they were possible? And then following through with that sort of mindset to like fully, I mean, I think that's what Marvel does really well in some ways, is just take sort of these sort of like they do a good job of hiding like really complex sci-fi thoughts inside of like a kind of stupid movie sometimes. Like this movie in general, like the idea of like ending war and like building like an intelligence system, which is almost the same plot as like Winter Soldier in some ways. Like, isn't that what just Shield was?
Sure.
So, and you're kind of like, there's some interesting joint thoughts in there, but it's just like, ugh.
Yeah,
sometimes
and I will
they're like really dunderheaded about it.
One of the aspects I was saying that I like better than the first Avengers, because this, even though there's like a AI robot going around like wanting to take over the world, I like how this one's a bit more grounded.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And they fixed Cat's costume, which is nice.
Yeah. Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah, I did not like his costume in the original Avengers, but
we talked about it. It's terrible.
Yeah. Can we just take a minute to recognize just how gorgeous ScarJo is?
Oh yeah.
Like, to me, she is the finest specimen I've ever seen in my life.
The thing about Marvel movies is there's
Sorry,
no one
that's weird.
ugly in the entire movie. Like even like supporting characters are all like what is it? Colby Smulders just has like 5 lines in the whole movie and she shoots a guy. That's it. But like they don't just cast like randos.
Now, we cannot talk about this movie without talking about the part when they're trying to pick up Thor's hammer.
Oh, it's a good scene. You brought
Yeah.
up a good point, Jackson.
Yeah, I'll talk about that real quick.
All right, so here is my question to y'all.
Mm-hmm.
They're all trying to pick up the hammer. That Hawkeye tries to pick it up, and then Tony tries to pick it up, and then he puts on the Iron Man glove and tries to pick it up, and then him and War Machine both put on their like machine gloves and try to pick it up. Nobody can do it. Cap tries to pick it up, and it just jiggles just a little bit. And Thor is like sitting in the background, and he's just like, "What?" But it doesn't move. It doesn't actually move that much.
Yeah.
So, is Cap faking so he won't embarrass Thor? Or is it just that he's not worthy yet? Because we know where this is going. It leads to the greatest moment in the entire MCU.
Yeah.
The part that makes everyone stand up and cheer. So what is your interpretation?
When I saw it the first time, my thought was that he could do it the whole time, and then he just didn't want to hurt Thor's feelings. That's my initial thought. But thinking about it now, and everything he had to go through, because this is before you seeing like everything leading up to Endgame. Maybe it makes more sense that he wasn't ready yet. I don't know. I go back and forth now. I can't decide.
I think he's almost worthy. Like, he's definitely pure at heart. It's very much King Arthur's sword kind of situation. Like, you have to be pure in heart to pick it up. I think he's almost there.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you have to take everything from Civil War. I think the whole was it called the Sokovian Accords? I think that
Sokovian
him being on the right side of that and doing the right thing. I think that's what really set that off for him.
All right. I think he's faking.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know when he became worthy, but for me, the moment he became worthy is in boot camp when he jumped on that grenade.
Yeah.
I think he's been worthy ever since then.
Okay.
And you will not convince me otherwise. I think he's just trying to like preserve Thor's dignity and feelings and all of that, because that is who he is.
Sure.
But I think he's been worthy the whole time, and the only reason he didn't do it is because it wasn't the right moment for him to do it.
Right.
In Endgame,
he wouldn't have gained anything by picking it up. Yeah.
Yeah. No. It just would have been, I don't know. It would have been destructive, I think, to the group, because I think Thor at that point, he's not the most fragile he'll be, but Thor is a pretty fragile guy, and I don't think he could have handled that. I think Cap waited for his moment, because in Endgame, and this is a whole Endgame conversation, but in Endgame, he doesn't just pick it up, he summons it. Because that is the moment where he had to do it.
Right.
Sure.
And I think if it hadn't come to that, he would have never done it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
But he's been worthy the whole time.
Yeah, I honestly don't think there's a bad answer. I think whatever side you're on.
Yeah, you're right. There's not a bad answer.
Yeah.
Right. I think really that scene serves as just a plant to pay it off with Vision later in the movie, jumping way ahead. And that he's worthy, and that's why they trust him, because they could have stood there and argued for hours to like, how do we trust this robot man? They're like, I don't know. Like, got this thing.
So, going on the Vision conversation, and we always talk about, this character had good potential, but they really didn't get there yet. I think they did that with Vision, because they kind of screwed over Vision a bit up until WandaVision. Because I think he's really good at WandaVision. Like, His chemistry with Elizabeth Olsen.
Yeah.
After he's dead.
Yeah, even that is not really Vision. It's a projection of Vision that Wanda has created in this alternate reality.
I like how Ultron points out that the church that he's sitting in is built in the center of the city so that everyone can be equal to God, because he sees himself as a god. Because he wants to destroy the world and rebuild it in his own twisted version of the Book of Revelation in the Bible. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, that's that's kind of the silly part about all this, is that it does ultimately end up in that the same thing kind of happens in every movie, that like someone wants to destroy the world for a reason that doesn't quite make sense, and you just kind of go along with. It's fine.
Right.
Well, okay, Eric, let me counter that thought with this thought. Ultron sees himself as a godlike figure because so does Tony.
Oh.
Okay.
Tony has always kind of seen himself that way. Tony has made himself the protector of Earth.
Sure.
And he's been that way since kind of the first movie. His ego is so out of control. Of course, it comes full circle in Endgame. We keep going back to Endgame. You can't talk about these movies without talking about where they end up.
Sure. Especially like the Avengers movie, especially like this one and Infinity War.
Yeah, well, this movie sets up Endgame in a plethora of ways.
Oh, yeah.
You get a lot of talk about Infinity Stones. You get stuff about Ragnarok. You get stuff about I can't even think at this point. Like this movie is so dense.
Well,
there's so much going on in 2.5 hours. Like less than 2.5 hours. It's like 2 hours and like 24 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
And they just packed too much in there.
Where somebody took certain scenes from Endgame and how it called back to every single Marvel movie up to
it's all there. It's all there.
The Hulkbuster scene is amazing. I love the part when he punches the Hulk multiple times. He's like, "Go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep."
No, there's some great stuff, and the problem is that it's kind of the same thing from the Incredible Hulk movie, is that there's just two CGI creatures basically bashing each other for a good 20 minutes. But I will say, at least this one is fun. Tony is doing a lot of he carries that scene quite well.
Well,
I don't know, it's a lot of fun.
There are better stakes in this scene because you see more of what's going on with like the civilians on the ground.
Yeah,
like Hulk knocks the elevator out of the building, and then Tony has to like grab the elevator and stop it before it hits the ground, and then get all the people off the elevator, then use the elevator to hit the Hulk.
It's great.
So,
it's a great setup. It's good.
It's better than the Incredible Hulk scene, because that scene, like everybody just clears the street and you just get these two CGI creatures bashing each other, with cars and stuff.
Right. And I love how the Avengers go to Hawkeye's house, because I think that brings a different dynamic to it. Like I said, that I like more than the original Avengers. And I just want to say one more thing. Jackson, I'll let you, say what you want to say. I try to stay away from politics as much as possible on here, but I just gotta bring this up because this hit hard for me. Natasha telling Banner that she lost her ability to have children as part of her training. Considering what goes on now, that really hit home with me.
See, I don't like that scene. Mainly because of the last line. The last line in that scene. I like the scene. I like the idea of the scene, but the last line of that scene is basically, I forget, I'll have to paraphrase it, but she says, "See, I'm not the only monster," which implies that just because she can't have children, she's a monster, which is really kind of messed up. I'm like,
that's one reading of that scene. I don't think it's the only reading, but I can see where people can get that from the scene, and yes. That reading of the scene is really terrible. I don't think that's what she's actually saying. I think she's talking about like she was turned into an assassin. She was programmed or whatever to kill people, and that was part of it. But I get it. I totally get it.
My
If it
Why
had just
that
been the scene
scene-
about her, yeah.
Why it reads bad. It reads real
Yep.
bad. Yeah.
my reading of the scene is what's they done what the thing that they did to her, and we learned this in the Black Widow movie. Because she was, this happened to her at a young age. Was very monstrous.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. If they had stayed to the barbaric side of it, I don't know. It's her ending on like basically saying she had her uterus scooped out, and then because that's the last thing in the Red Room. That's what they do.
Yeah.
It's just like the way the scene kind of stacks, and like it's just kind of like ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not. I think it's bad execution, not bad. Not bad thematics, just bad execution. Yeah. I think that's probably what it is. I hope that's what it is. Who knows? Joss Whedon is kind of a
piece of
dick.
shit. Yeah.
So.
I don't know. Just like I said, that whole kind of, I guess, aspect of her Black Widow training in her past. Like, it really got me because that's taking away a woman's like right to have the bear children.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that is monstrous. That is the monstrous part of that scene. So let's go back to the farmhouse with Hawkeye and the Barton family. That was the most delightful surprise of the whole movie.
Yes. I remember, and it's again. There's a nice setup and payoff at the beginning too. It's great. It's a wonderful change of dynamics, especially coming from like so many scenes where people are just bashing each other. Like it just really grounds everything in the movie. It's fun to see the dynamic when they're not like fully just arguing with each other constantly. They spent a lot of this movie and the previous movie just basically arguing and kind of being at each other's throats. For
sure.
So it was nice to switch it up a bit, I think. I do like that they kind of gave them all something different to do this time than the first one, which was fun to see, like, because Hawkeye can shoot a bunch of arrows, but he's he can't really take down that many robots, not like Thor or Iron Man can. So it was nice giving them, like, breaking them up and then piecing them across the Sokovia, which is fun, but agreed, like, it goes on for like way too long.
But Hawkeye addresses that in the movie.
That's true.
He's given the whole speech to Wanda, and he lists all these things, and then he's like, and I have a bow and arrow. But
we do what we can.
If you want to do this, the second you step out this door, you are an Avenger.
See, that was awesome. And then she's like taking out like Ultron bots. That was cool. It just a lot of this other stuff. It was just filler. It's like, oh my god, it gets to the point. It gets to the part when they're in that circle building. They're all together.
Sure.
It was funny because I saw a TV spot for that. That part where they're in that building, and it showed Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. I'm like, wait, I thought they were the bad guy in the movie.
Spoilers.
Yeah. One more thing, I love the part when Ultron calls Vision naive, and he says, "Well, I was born yesterday."
It's fun. It's fun.
Really funny.
That's a Joss Whedonism right there.
Yeah.
If ever there was one.
I also like the part when Iron Man and Ultron meet up at that church at the very end, and he says, "Stark, come to confess your sins." Go back to the whole twisted, godlike complex kind of.
Sure.
Kind of thing. So do you want to do favorite part, least favorite part?
Okay.
Sure.
So let's go, Eric.
Okay. Favorite part. To me, my favorite part is that this is one, James Spader, and then two, that this had a little of darker turn than the first Avengers movie had. The first one, I didn't feel the stakes as much, and in this one, at least, felt like people could die, and people do die. So spoilers. But least favorite part is there's just so much. It's basically almost 2 movies worth of plot, like mashed into like 2 hours and 20 minutes. It really probably could have divided into 2, like they did Infinity War and Endgame. But
right,
favorite part, it's the farmhouse sequence. I love that. I love that in the middle of this movie where there's all this chaos going on, you get to see the least likely Avenger and his family, and of course, back to Endgame, it pays off in a big way.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I think that's just like a really beautiful little centerpiece to the movie that really shows you the stakes, because the other heroes don't have this. But here's the guy with no superpowers. This is what he's fighting for. So I think that's really great. Least favorite part, yeah, it's the same as Eric said. It's just too much. There's just too much going on. It's crazy. But what were they supposed to do? Like, they were like, we got to set up this and this and this and this and this. And they did. It's effective, but it doesn't necessarily make the most cohesive, singular movie. So that's a minor complaint. It is, but I really
it's kind of like a bridge. Yeah, I do too. I like this better than the first one, I think.
Same.
Yeah. My favorite part is Ultron. Just Ultron.
He's great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Least favorite thing, the final action scene is too long, like I said.
Yeah.
And
that's a fair assessment.
Yeah, that's due rating. I'm gonna give it a 3.5. I think there's enough that's good in this movie to keep it entertaining. Like I said, you feel the way towards the end.
Yeah. I'm somewhere between a 3.5 and 4. I can't remember what I gave the first Avengers, so I think this is higher. I'm gonna say 3.5 as well.
I think I gave the first Avengers like 3.5, 4. This is a solid 4. Like, I'm not gonna qualify it. It's a 4. It's too long, it's too overstuffed, but the stuff that works is so good that it washes out the stuff that doesn't work.
This is the first one of these. This is the first one of these MCU videos we've done where the 3 movies we watched are all pretty good. Like, there's not one that's kind of
they're all good.
Yeah, there's not one that's like, this is Thor Dark World, or it's like, Iron Man 2.
Well, we got one more movie to talk about, I guess. So, wow, we've been talking for so long.
This would be a quick one. This would be a quick one.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, Antman is light. It's light as air.
Yeah, so let's go to the plot summary according to IMDb. Armed with the supersuit, with the extraordinary ability to shrink in scale but increase in strength, Cat Burglar Scott Lang must embrace his inner hero and help his mentor, Dr. Hank Pym, pull off a plan that will save the world.
I like this movie. I don't love this movie. It's a lot of fun. There's some great stuff in it. I love that it's a heist, which really mirrors the Endgame. We're going back to Endgame again, but it really that movie is basically a time heist, and this one is just a heist, and they use Ant-Man sort of in the same way. It's a lot of fun. There are some it's not even necessarily problems. It's just there's just some things that don't quite click with me as well as some of the other movies in the MCU. But Paul Rudd's super charming. The face CGI at the beginning, the de-aging on Michael Douglas is horrible now. I remember watching it in theaters, and I was just like, it's pretty good. They finally cracked this thing. And now I'm watching it going oh God.
See, I just watched it before we got on here, and I thought it looked pretty good.
Yeah. Oh.
But maybe it's my TV. I don't know. I don't have a 4K or anything.
Oh, I don't either. I was watching it on an iPad. I don't know.
Right.
Oh. I thought it looked all right. I'm thinking back to him in, Wall Street or, Basic Instinct. I thought it looked like him from then.
It's better than the Tron Legacy de-aging they did on Jeff Bridges.
Yeah. I haven't even seen that whole movie. I've just seen the clips, and that looks really bad. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like the part when the dude talks shit about his wife, Janet Van Dyne, and then dude just jacks him in the face.
Martin Donovan, quiet hero of the silver screen. Martin Donovan. He's terrific.
There's a lot of punching jokes in this movie.
A lot of
There's
what
a lot of what
jokes?
jokes?
Punting or like all punting.
Punching. Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The next scene is literally like the introduction of Scott Lang, and he's getting like punched by one of his prison buddies. That's okay. We're
Yeah.
to say goodbye.
You got the weirdest. You got the weirdest going away rituals. Yeah.
I mean, that's in the trailer, like where he and Hope are training, and she's like, "You want to know how to punch?" And she punches him, and she's like, "That's how you punch." So yeah.
Maybe Peyton.
Yeah, I guess
maybe
that is a
right. Maybe Peyton Reed just hated Paul Rudd. Maybe he just wanted to punch him in every scene.
Yeah, he's like Sam Raimi with Tobey Maguire. He's looking for any excuse.
Putting him through hell.
Like torture Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man.
Okay. So
and Bruce Campbell in any movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh. Yeah. Bruce Campbell. I mean, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. He's got Bruce Campbell hitting himself again. Yeah. That's the thing. Okay. Before we get into kind of the plot of this movie, we have to talk about the production debacle that was Antman.
Yep.
Because this movie was going to be directed by a visionary of cinema, someone who has made so many great movies, and they're all kind of different from each other, Edgar Wright. And he worked on this movie for years. He worked on this movie from before the MCU was a thing.
I didn't know that.
This movie.
That's wild.
No. I mean, I think it was kind of getting started, but it hadn't been bought by Disney yet.
Yeah.
And like Edgar Wright very specifically wanted to make an Ant-Man movie. And he'd worked on the script with Joe Cornish, who is a gifted filmmaker in his own right. They had worked on this script for years, and they had done all this pre-production and everything. And then something didn't click with the brass at Marvel. And Edgar Wright was like, okay, fine, see ya. And they were like, oh, creative differences, and it's, mutual parting. No, whatever. Either he got fired or he got fed up and quit.
Probably fed up and quit.
Probably.
Yeah,
I would have loved to have seen. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, I will say I like how Edgar Wright kind of stuck to his guns.
I mean, that's what he does.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, can I rather see an Edgar Wright Ant-Man movie where he goes full Edgar Wright than an Edgar Wright movie that's going to be dictated by Kevin Feige? And I can respect Kevin Feige in that situation too, because he stuck to his gun, because he had the clear vision of Marvel and what he wanted to do with it. So, I mean...
Yeah, and I will say that vision, Feige's vision, works up through Endgame. And now I don't know what they're doing. Yeah,
no, I don't either. Nobody does. Yeah. Even Kevin Feige has no idea what he's doing anymore.
Yep. I mean, I would have loved to have seen an Edgar Wright movie, but he's probably better off for it, and I know he just made better movies that weren't a part of the MCU. Honestly, like he just went off and did other things.
Edgar Wright had done this movie, we probably would have gone in Paul Rudd.
You think we would have got Simon Pegg?
Yeah, maybe.
It would have been Simon Pegg. Simon Pegg, Ant-Man sounds great.
I am down for some Simon Pegg all the time.
Oh no, I love
that guy. He's terrific. He would have been a great Scott Lang.
Yeah, but I also like Paul Rudd.
Yeah,
Paul
Rudd's
super charming in this movie. Yeah.
Yeah, he's always charming. That's what Paul Rudd does.
That's his whole acting technique. I just charming. You want me to be charming or more? That's what it is.
I just gotta say that Baskin Robbins always knows, or always finds out.
Always knows. Yes. What I love about this movie is like all this, the one-off, like random characters that kind of come in and go. So like the guy who runs the Baskin Robbins is like this weird comedian who does this sort of like anti-comedy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Well, his stage name is Neil Hamburger. I can't remember
his real name.
I can't remember his real name. Yeah, but yeah.
But I love all like him and Michael Pena and like all those like, supporting characters.
Michael Pena is the like pearl at the center of the clam that is this movie. Like he is chef's kiss brilliant.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I love Penny in this movie. I also really like the Ant-Man versus Falcon fight. I thought that was a lot of fun. And he says, don't tell Captain America about this.
Yeah, that's a nice little punchline at the end of that. Yeah. That movie, I'm fine with that action scene. It does kind of feel like a perfunctory sort of like we've had too long without an action sequence. We have to have one now at this point in the movie.
Well, also it's like we can't get one of the main Avengers to be in this movie, so we're gonna get the B team, pull them in. And don't get me wrong, I think Anthony Mackie is a great actor, and I love Sam, and I'm very interested to see where he goes with Captain America in the future. But at this point, he was not that. He was just like B team Avengers.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not until he flies through the portal in Endgame that he becomes like a real star.
Right. Well, the thing is, I like how in the solo movies, how like different characters from like other movies kind of that we already seen pop up. Like Widow and Winter Soldier or Falcon and this, and that's how the comics books would be. So like Spider-Man comic book that would feature like the Human Torch or something like that.
Yeah. No, it's nice. It's nice having those little cameos too because they help kind of break up some of the monotony of these movies. Because like in some ways, all these movies are the same. Like they're the same movie over and over. So having like different characters come in helps kind of just like refresh everything a little bit.
All right, y'all want some Marvel movie trivia that you probably didn't know, but I know because I am a weird nerd that knows this kind of shit. So you remember the Fantastic Four movie from 2005 where Chris Evans played the Human Torch.
Yep.
It was directed by Tim Story, but Tim Story was not the original director attached to that movie. The original director was a guy named Peyton Reed.
Oh.
Who took over this movie
from Tim Story?
From Edgar Wright.
Oh.
Like, he got replaced on Fantastic Four, and then those movies were not good. And Edgar Wright came in for this movie. He got taken off one way or the other, we don't know, and replaced by Peyton Reed. So it's like Peyton Reed's sort of redemption, because he finally got to make a Marvel superhero movie that he clearly, maybe he didn't want to make this one, but he got to make one.
Yeah,
and
he got to make
three other good movies.
Yeah,
he
got to make three.
But he's made other good movies. He made Bring It On, which
I think
is like a really great teen comedy. And then he made Down with Love with Ewan McGregor, Zellweger, and that movie is like a little underrated gem.
Oh, sure.
It's like a throwback to 1950s comedy.
Yeah. Doris Day sort of Cary Grant type movie. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, and it's very well stylized, and I think
production design great. Yeah.
Considering what he had to deal with coming into this movie, I think he does a really great job.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Compared to Fantastic Four, this would be the one movie that I would rather make than the travesty that is the Jessica Alba, Michael. Is it? I forget the guy.
Chiklis,
I forget who was the thing. Chiklis, Michael Chiklis. Yeah.
Chris Evans. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the guy from Nip Tuck.
Yep, he plays Dr. Doom.
Yep.
Julian McMahon.
And then Doug Jones in the sequel as the Silver Surfer.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
Although
that's nice.
They replaced his voice with Lawrence Fishburne, but that's not important.
Just like Hellboy.
Yeah. Anyway, I like Darren Cross's backstory. How he kind of looked up to Hank Pym with the Pym particle. And then he uses that technology to make a better suit with the Yellow Jacket. I just feel like Corey Stoll's like his acting is off. Like it's very off. Like it's kind of like sarcastic, but like feel like he's phoning it in a bit. It's weird.
Okay.
It's a weird performance, mainly because they try to throw in this like bit of dialogue that the particles are changing him somehow, and like that's what's making him kind of
Yeah,
crazy, and it's kind of like,
yeah, that's dumb.
yeah.
Mhm.
And so it's just kind of like he's doing the best with what he's got, which is pretty like flat, basic character. So I don't want to fault him as like an actor, but yeah, it's a pretty fairly underwritten role, other than the dynamic between him and Tim.
I will say, okay, I know this because y'all both sent me your villain rankings over text, which we are not going to average those out going forward. But I know that y'all both don't care for Darren Cross. I will, at this point, mount a defense because Darren Cross, it's not much to do with the character, but Darren Cross has the gnarliest villain moment in any of these movies. Because he goes up to the guy in the restroom.
Oh, it's true.
Points the little gun at him and turns him into a little blob of goo that falls on the floor, wipes it up with toilet paper, flushes it down. That is one of the most heinous, horrifying things that's ever happened in a Marvel movie.
Do you know that little blob of goo reminded me of? It reminded me of, I don't know if you've ever seen that Disney animated movie, Treasure Planet. It reminded me of
yeah, I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, more
it sort of like floats around, yeah.
Yeah. Like Darren Cross could have just left that little glob of glue on the floor and was like, sorry guys, I was having lunch. My PB&J fell out.
He's even in the bathroom?
Yeah.
That's even more fucked up than anything that he does in this movie.
It's in the bathroom. Like the guy's just got done peeing.
Yeah.
And they're having a conversation by the sink. And Darren Cross just pulls out the little ray gun, turns the guy into goo, flushes him down the toilet. Yeah. And that's it.
And I love
that person. My question after that scene is like, who was that person in relation to how the company works? Like,
no, he was like the guy that raised the objections during the meeting.
Right. But how does he work? He works for Kim Company,
so.
right?
I think.
Did he have a family?
I think so.
Like that's as soon as they killed him, I was like, "There's so many loose."
I'm sure he
here.
does. And you know, it doesn't pay off or anything.
Just right.
Just the fact that Darren Cross as a villain was willing to just end that man's existence right then and there in that horrible, horrible way. So it's pretty.
That's fair. That's a fair defense.
Yeah. It's a really, really good villain moment. So,
I love the Cure joke in this movie. I thought that was really funny when they're in the helicopter and Darren Cross goes, "I will disintegrate you." After you hit on Shuri.
Disintegration.
Yeah. And you hear planes on the
which is beautiful song.
Yeah,
absolutely beautiful. Yeah. I love the Cure.
I will say him standing up as Yellow Jacket is a pretty cool shot reveal of like him in the helicopter, which is nice because I feel like they do these sort of like villainous shots like that a lot, where they're like, "Oh, he's imposing, he's a villain," and I just thought this one was well done, at least, especially since it's the first time you really see the Yellow Jacket costume. They did that like animation earlier in the movie, but.
No, it's a really good design. It looks very intimidating and scary.
Mm-hmm.
So
And I like the whole thing with how the original Antman and Wasp worked in the Cold War.
Yeah,
I thought that was really interesting.
So in this movie, they didn't have Michelle Pfeiffer, right? Like they didn't have plans that she was going to be Pym's wife. I can't remember what her name is.
No, they never show her face.
Right.
But anyways, guys, do you want to do favorite part, least favorite part?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's do it.
What is your favorite part, Eric?
Michael Pena. All day.
Okay.
That's my favorite part. All day, every day. Least favorite part, the heist is fun, but there's so much in like the story. The story's a little clunky in parts because they spend they set up that he has a daughter, and then it takes him like 20 minutes to actually show her, and then like they try to double that up with Pym and I forget her name, Pym's daughter,
Oh,
Evelyn Lilly. But like they
Amazingly
spend so
Lily.
much time like him dancing around, like not telling her, like and it's all like it just feels like they're like building mystery when it could have just been cleared up super quick. There's just things like that. I'm like, ah.
Okay.
But overall, pretty good.
Jackson?
all right. Favorite part, it's one shot and it's in the trailer. Well, actually two shots. It's an edit that I love. It's where at the end of the movie where Scott and Darren are fighting in their suits and they're miniature and they're on the little toy table, and you see the train coming at Darren Cross, and it's like set up to be like the train running over him, and then it cuts to like the little toy train just falls off the tracks. It's it makes me laugh every single time. I love it.
It's a wonderful little gag. It kind of feels like that some of that stuff may be like leftovers from like Edgar Wright too. You know what I mean?
That has to be from Edgar Wright. Yeah. Least favorite part, I don't know. It's a little bland. You know, the first time I saw this movie in the theater, I fell asleep. Had to go back and watch it again. Same thing happened with Quantumania, oddly enough. Didn't happen with Ant-Man and the Wasp. I really like that one. We'll get to that in a few episodes.
I agree.
So, this movie is just kind of yeah.
Can I say
but
it's also
not bad.
No, it's not bad. It's strange like how they structured phase 2 for like that they end on this movie, which is weird. It's weird to me that
that's weird.
I don't understand. Yeah, this felt like it should have happened like before Guardians or something. I don't know, and ended on Ultron. I don't know. It just felt like a weird, or like this is the first of like a new phase. You know what I mean? Like it's such a strange choice to like go like kind of dark with Ultron and then just bounce back with this sort of like lark of a movie.
Yeah. Well, they did that with phase 3 too. Like
that's true.
There was Endgame and then Spider-Man.
Oh, that's true.
Going through Europe. Yeah. I don't know what they're doing. Nobody does.
I gotta say my favorite part is Ant-Man versus the Falcon. Least favorite part, like I said, Corey Stoll's acting is a little off.
Sure.
Let's do rating. You, Eric.
This is a solid 3.5. I think there's enough like fun moments and comedic stuff from like Paul Rudd and Michael Pena that kind of keep it light on its feet. There's stakes, but they're fairly flimsy. At least there's stakes there, I guess. It is fun for the most part. So I would say probably 3.5 stars.
Okay.
Same. Yeah, 3.5. I have nothing else to add to that.
All right, I'm gonna go with 4 stars. I like Paul Rudd. I like his whole story about him, trying to turn his life around and all that stuff. Let's do rating. Rating. I start over. Now, that we're at the end of phase 2, let's rank all these movies, and I'll let you go first, Jackson.
Are we doing just phase 2, right? Or are we doing phase 2 and phase 1?
No, just phase 2.
Okay, cool. Just making sure.
All right. So there are 6 movies in this phase. Number 6 is, of course, Thor: The Dark World, which I still don't hate. Like, there's stuff I like about it.
Second,
After that, number 5, I would say Ant-Man. After that, number 4 would be Iron Man 3. Number 3, Captain America: Winter Soldier. Number 2, Age of Ultron, and number 1, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay, your turn, Eric.
I'm gonna be honest. That's my exact ranking. I don't have anything to add. That's exactly how I kind of feel about all these movies too.
Right.
Guardians is great. Winter Soldier's pretty good. Ultron's a lot of fun. And the rest of them are pretty good, except for Thor, except the second half of Thor. So,
my ranking is 6 Thor, 5 Iron Man, 4 Antman, 3 Avengers, 2 Guardians, 1 Captain America.
oh, interesting. Switching it up. Cap on top. Which will be probably the last time I really like a Captain America movie is Winter Soldier. I'm not crazy about Civil War.
We're about to get into
Civil
War territory where Drew is just going to be like, "This is the best one ever," and we're just going to be like, "It's fine."
I didn't say it's the best one ever. I'm saying it's my personal favorite. There's a difference.
Okay, you're right.
Okay, fine.
So let's do our villain ranking.
Okay.
So let's go.
I don't remember what I said now. Malekith was bottom, and then it goes I think Ronan, and then Killian, and then what's the other one? There's one more in there. Winter Soldier's second, and then Ultron's first. What's the? I'm missing one.
Oh, Drew has 9 on his list.
9?
Yeah, 9.
I don't.
One of them is not actually a villain, but he's got it in there. Is it
Nebula? Do you have Nebula down as a villain?
No, he has Trevor Slattery from Iron Man 3.
That's when he's a villain.
Oh, Alexander Pierce was 3 on mine. And then Corey Sloth was Corey Stoll was right above Malekith at the bottom.
Okay. So going off of Drew's list, I didn't actually make my own list because what's the point? Who cares? Yeah. Who cares what I think about the villain rankings of this franchise? Anyway, so yes, in 9th place, I will go with Malekith. Number 8, I will go with Ronan, even though I love Lee Pace. Number 7, you know what? Screw that. I'm taking Trevor Slattery off the list because he's not actually a villain. So we're going to go 8 Malekith, 7 Ronan, 6 Alexander Pierce, because he's really not that menacing. 5, we're going to go Aldrich Killian. 4, Nebula. 3, Darren Cross, because I actually really like Corey Stoll in that movie. Number 2 is the Winter Soldier. And number 1 is, of course, Ultron, because James Spader.
Yeah. I mean, mine is kind of the same thing as both of yours. I'm going to go 9, Malekith. 8, Yellow Jacket, Darren Cross. 7, Ronan. 6, Aldrich Killian. 5, Nebula. 4, Trevor Slattery. Screw you, Jackson. It counts. 3, Alexander Pierce. 2, Winter Soldier, and then 1, Ultron. So,
right.
Yeah.
We just finished phase 2, y'all.
Yeah.
Oh,
man, we're booking.
Is to come.
And honestly, this is where 3 is where everything gets really good. So I'm kind of excited about 3.
Oh yeah.
But
we've kind of slept through some trash a few times in the past few months, but it's all getting better until we get to phase 4.
Oh God, phase 4.
I don't think phase 4 is as bad as everybody says it is. This is not like on the same level as 3.
Ooh. I don't know. I think it may be the worst phase, and that includes 1.
Oh no, it is the worst phase. I'm not saying that. No. I'm just saying it's not like. But anyway,
phase 4 is, to quote Bilbo Baggins, butter scraped over too much bread.
Yep. The best stuff is the TV stuff. The best stuff is the television shows, and
some of
those are not great either. Yeah. Hawkeye, anyone?
Moon Knight.
Ooh, Moon Knight. Oh, I forgot about Moon Knight. Oh God, we're gonna have to rewatch Moon Knight. Oh man.
But anyway, guys, if you like this episode and you want to see more incredible content, make sure you smash that subscribe button, web swing on over to my Facebook page and my Twitter account at Horror Sci-Fi and Beyond. And don't forget to leave this episode an amazing comment, and also give this episode a Thanos-sized thumbs up. And before I go, we are Groot and Excelsior. Enough said.